The airport lounge fell silent when Victoria Kane stood up from the conference table. She was the CEO of Sterling Air, a woman known for making decisions quickly and expecting everyone to obey them. At 38, she had transformed the struggling airline into one of the most respected private aviation companies in the country. Nobody challenged Victoria. At least, not twice. Daniel Reed was about to become the exception. He sat quietly at the end of the table, still wearing his pilot uniform. His jacket was slightly wrinkled, and there was a photograph of his 10-year-old daughter tucked inside his wallet. He had been called into the meeting because Victoria wanted to discuss a change in the company's flight procedures. Daniel had objected. Not because he wanted attention. Because he believed the new procedure created an unnecessary safety risk. "I've reviewed the route 3 times, Daniel said calmly. If the weather changes as predicted, the current plan leaves the crew with fewer options. Victoria folded her arms. Our aviation department approved it. With respect, that doesn't make it safe. Several executives exchanged uncomfortable glances. Victoria's eyes narrowed. You're questioning my decision? I'm questioning the procedure. You questioned it in front of everyone. Daniel didn't raise his voice. Because everyone's safety is involved. Victoria stood. You're finished. Daniel blinked. Excuse me? You're fired. The words hit the room like a thunderclap. Nobody moved. Daniel stared at her for several seconds. My flight boards in 20 minutes. Not anymore. Victoria, I've been flying for Sterling for 8 years. And today you became a liability. Daniel slowly stood. I've never violated a safety regulation. No, Victoria replied coldly. But you've forgotten who signs your paycheck. Daniel looked at her. No. I've remembered who I'm responsible for. That answer made Victoria's expression harden. Hand over your access badge. Daniel reached into his pocket. Before giving it to her, he looked toward the glass doors. His daughter Emma was waiting outside with a small backpack. She had come to surprise him before his flight. Daniel's heart sank. He didn't want her to see him humiliated. He handed Victoria the badge. Fine. He walked toward the exit. Emma immediately noticed his expression. Dad? Daniel forced a smile. Hey, kiddo. You're done already? Something like that. She looked back toward the conference room. Did you get in trouble? Daniel crouched beside her. No. Sometimes adults disagree. Emma nodded, though she clearly didn't believe him. They started walking toward the terminal. Behind them, Victoria returned to the conference table. Let's continue. But before anyone could speak, an alarm sounded. The airport emergency phone began ringing. Everyone froze. The dispatcher answered. His face changed almost immediately. Flight 417 has a problem. Victoria stood. What kind of problem? Navigation failure. A second dispatcher hurried over. Primary navigation is down. Backup is giving conflicting data. Victoria stared at the operations screen. Flight 417 was already taxiing toward the runway. How many people? 112 passengers and crew. The room became silent. The captain requested assistance. The tower attempted to establish contact. Static answered. Try again, Victoria ordered. The controller tried. Nothing. Then the aircraft's transponder began sending inconsistent information. The radar showed the plane drifting away from its expected position. Victoria's confidence disappeared. What is happening? The dispatcher whispered, We're losing them. At that moment, Daniel had reached the terminal doors. He heard the emergency announcement. He stopped. Emma looked up. Dad? Daniel turned toward the control room. Something was wrong. He handed Emma to a nearby airport security officer he trusted. Stay with Mr. Harris. Why? I'll be right back. Daniel ran. He entered the operations room just as another alarm sounded. Victoria turned. You shouldn't be here. Daniel ignored her. What's the aircraft's last known position? Nobody answered. He looked at the screen. Give me the coordinates. The dispatcher hesitated. Victoria finally said, give them to him. The coordinates appeared. Daniel stared at the numbers. Then he shook his head. That's wrong. The dispatcher frowned. The system generated them. The system doesn't know about the wind shift. Daniel pointed toward the weather display. The crosswind changed 6 minutes ago. Flight 417 would have drifted east. Victoria looked at the screen. How far? Daniel calculated quickly. About 12 miles. The controller checked the flight data. His eyes widened. He's right. Daniel grabbed the headset. Put me on the emergency channel. Victoria stepped forward. You're fired. Daniel looked directly at her. People are still up there. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Victoria nodded. Daniel put on the headset. This is Daniel Reed. Flight 417, do you copy? Only static answered. He tried again. Flight 417, this is Daniel Reed. A faint voice finally emerged. Daniel? The captain recognized him. Daniel leaned forward. Good to hear you. We've lost navigation. I know. What do we do? Daniel studied the radar. First, stay calm. Outside the window, dark clouds were rapidly moving across the sky. Daniel's eyes narrowed. The storm was heading directly toward the aircraft. He turned toward the controller. Give me the latest weather. The information appeared. Daniel stared at it. Then he whispered. That route is gone. Victoria looked at him. What does that mean? Daniel pointed toward the radar. The storm is closing every safe approach. The controller asked, alternative? Daniel remained silent for several seconds. Then the radio suddenly crackled. A different voice came through. Tower to unidentified coordinator. Identify yourself. Daniel pressed the microphone. This is Daniel Reed. The controller paused. Then his voice changed. Daniel Reed, is that really you? Daniel didn't answer. The controller continued. Viper 1, if that's you, we need your assistance. Victoria slowly turned toward him. Viper 1? Daniel's expression became unreadable. The controller spoke again. Viper 1, Flight 417 is entering the storm. Daniel looked at the radar. Then he tightened his grip on the microphone. Tell them to hold their altitude. The room went silent. I'm bringing them home. The aircraft disappeared from the radar for 3 terrifying seconds. Nobody in the control room spoke. Then the signal returned. Flight 417, do you copy? Daniel asked. Static. He tried again. Flight 417, this is Viper 1. Respond. A faint voice finally came through. Viper 1, we copy. Daniel closed his eyes for half a second in relief. Good. Stay with me. Victoria stood behind him, watching every movement. The man she had publicly fired only minutes earlier was now the calmest person in the entire airport. Daniel studied the radar. The storm is moving faster than expected. The controller asked, can they make the main airport? Daniel shook his head. Not safely. Victoria stepped closer. Then where do they go? Daniel pointed toward a mountain range on the map. There. The operations manager stared. That area has no active airport. No active airport, Daniel replied. But there is an emergency runway. It's been closed for years. I know. Victoria looked at him. How do you know? Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed the microphone. Flight 417, prepare for a change of course. The captain replied, we're ready. Turn 12 degrees east. Turning. Daniel watched the radar carefully. The aircraft moved away from the worst part of the storm. For a few seconds, everything seemed under control. Then an alarm sounded. The aircraft's altitude began dropping. Victoria's face went pale. What happened? Daniel checked the information. Engine performance. Is it failing? Not yet. He looked at the captain's data. They're fighting severe turbulence. Daniel spoke into the radio. Flight 417, reduce speed slightly. Reducing. Don't fight the turbulence. Let the aircraft move with it. The captain answered immediately. Understood. The plane stabilized. Victoria stared at Daniel. You've done this before. Daniel remained focused. Something like this. No, Victoria said. Not something like this. Daniel finally looked at her. You don't need to know everything about me. She lowered her voice. Maybe I should have. Before she could say anything else, the controller interrupted. Viper 1, we've got another aircraft approaching the eastern corridor. Daniel checked the radar. Commercial? Yes. What's its altitude? 24,000. Daniel calculated quickly. Flight 417 is descending through 25. Victoria looked alarmed. They're going to cross paths. Daniel shook his head. Not if we move them now. He grabbed the microphone. Flight 417, turn left 5 degrees and descend 2,000 feet. The captain responded. Copy. The other aircraft was redirected north. The danger passed. But Daniel wasn't celebrating. He was looking at the emergency runway. The storm had shifted. There's another problem, he said. Victoria asked, what? The runway is wet. The operations manager frowned. It's been raining there for an hour. Daniel nodded. And Flight 417 may have a landing gear problem. Victoria's eyes widened. How do you know? The aircraft sensor readings aren't consistent. He contacted the captain. Flight 417, check your landing gear indicator. A pause. Then. We have a warning. Daniel's expression hardened. Can you deploy manually? Trying now. Everyone waited. The captain responded. Still showing a fault. Daniel looked at the runway. Then at the storm. Then back at the aircraft. Prepare for an emergency landing. The control room became silent. Victoria whispered, can they survive that? Daniel answered without looking away. Yes. How can you be so sure? Because I'm not going to let them land wrong. He began guiding the captain toward the emergency runway. Keep your speed steady. Copy. Don't descend yet. Copy. Wait for my command. The aircraft emerged from the clouds. For the first time, the control room could see its lights. Everyone held their breath. Daniel spoke calmly. Flight 417, you're lined up. The captain answered. Visual. Gear. Warning still active. Daniel took a slow breath. Continue. The aircraft descended. 10 meters. 5 meters. Closer. Then the plane touched the runway. It bounced once. Daniel immediately instructed the captain to maintain control. The aircraft continued forward, slowing rapidly. Smoke rose from the tires, but the aircraft remained straight. Finally, it stopped. Silence. Then the tower erupted in cheers. Victoria covered her mouth. Daniel removed the headset. The captain's voice came through one last time. Viper 1, we made it. Daniel smiled. No. You made it. He turned toward the exit. Victoria followed. Daniel. He stopped. She walked toward him slowly. I was wrong. Daniel said nothing. I fired you because you challenged me. You challenged a decision that could have endangered people, Victoria continued. And then, when I pushed you out, you came back anyway. Daniel looked toward the terminal. My daughter was waiting. Victoria nodded. I know. She held out his access badge. Daniel looked at it but didn't take it. I'm offering you your position back. He shook his head. I don't think I want it. Victoria seemed surprised. Why? Daniel smiled faintly. Because today reminded me what flying is supposed to be about. He walked toward Emma. She ran into his arms. Dad. Are you okay? Daniel hugged her. I'm perfect. Emma looked over his shoulder. Did you save the airplane? Daniel smiled. Lots of people helped. Victoria watched them from a distance. Then the tower radio crackled one final time. Viper 1, this is tower. Daniel looked back. Go ahead. The controller laughed. It's been years since we've heard that call sign. Daniel smiled. Yeah. I thought it was retired. Not today. Daniel looked at Emma. Then at the runway. Maybe not. Victoria approached him again. She didn't offer another order. She simply said, if you ever decide to fly again, Sterling Air would be honored. Daniel smiled. I'll think about it. Months later, Flight 417's passengers gathered for a small ceremony at the airport. The captain stepped onto the stage. We survived because one man refused to walk away when he had every reason to. Daniel stood quietly in the crowd with Emma beside him. The captain raised a glass. To Viper 1. The crowd applauded. Emma looked up at her father. Are you famous now? Daniel laughed. No. She smiled. You're my hero. Daniel put his arm around her. That's the only title I need. And from the control tower above them, the radio came alive one final time. Viper 1, you're cleared for whatever comes next. Daniel looked toward the sky. Then he smiled. Copy that.